American farmers have been hurt by low prices, and this month brought no relief. Figures released by the Agriculture Department show prices were unchanged between this month and last. In addition, prices are lower now than at this time last year. Last month, the cost of oranges, eggs, and grapefruit was up, but that was offset by declines for cattle, tomatoes, wheat, hay, corn, and soybeans. Coming up, dissident Iranian students riot at the Southern Texas University. The eighth ceasefire in 8 weeks is in place in Beirut, but already Israel reports violations by the PLO. Israel's military command accuses guerrillas of shelling Israeli positions near the city's airport with bazooka fire. There's no comment from the PLO, and it's not known if Israeli forces returned the fire. The ceasefire follows 3 hours of Israeli air, land, and sea bombardment of the western part of the Lebanese capital. Prime Minister Menachem Begin is quoted as telling Parliament if there's no peaceful solution soon, he would order more bombing of West Beirut or a ground assault to capture or kill the guerrillas. In the negotiations, a key Lebanese intermediary vows he'll pull out of the talks if Israel does not lift its blockade of water, food, fuel, and electricity to the besieged capital. The blockade was imposed Monday in an attempt to put more pressure on the PLO to reach an evacuation agreement. Iran still is not commenting on Iraqi claims of a major victory in the Persian Gulf War. Iraq says its forces killed more than 6,400 Iranian soldiers in 2 days of fighting. There was no mention of Iraqi casualties. An Iranian offensive began Wednesday in the 5th massive push into Iraqi territory since mid-July. Iran's parliament leader vowed yesterday that his country would not end its assault until Iraqi President Saddam Hussein is overthrown. Anti-Iranian college students at Southern Methodist University near Dallas accuse pro-Iranian factions of bringing their country's battle to the United States. Steve Forsberg reports on a clash between the two groups yesterday at SMU.
Witnesses say the attack was highly organized.
A guard and 9 inmates are suffering minor injuries after a skirmish yesterday at the Pontiac Correctional Center in Illinois. Prison officials blamed the 5-minute fight on gang rivalries. Inmates were confined to their cells immediately until a search for weapons could be completed. It was the second riot in as many days. One inmate was stabbed to death in Thursday's incident. The Reagan administration is prepared to sell arms to India, but at a National Press Club meeting yesterday in Washington, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi said she's not in the market for military equipment. However, she did leave the door open for future arms purchases from the United States. Gandhi says her military chiefs want more weapons, and the Indian Prime Minister has indicated she wants to cut back on the purchase of weapons from the Soviets. Mrs. Gandhi ends her visit to the U.S. Wednesday. Now, for a look at the nation's weather, we go to Walton Jones in the CNN Weather Center. Walton? Coming up, a new amphitheater in Los Angeles has a star-studded gala opening. In San Ysidro, California, a Marine who allegedly hit and killed 3 people with his car has been charged with homicide and hit-and-run driving. George Alexander Biddy is being held without bond. Police say a group of Japanese students were getting off a tour bus at the San Ysidro, Mexico border crossing Thursday when Biddy's car crossed the median, jumped the curb, and smashed into the tourist. Police think Biddy was fleeing to Mexico following an earlier minor incident. A prominent lawyer on trial for allegedly plotting to murder his wife testified he only wanted to make poison available to her. William Chancellor of Houston said he never intended to kill his wife. In court yesterday, he said his wife, Sue, had become increasingly despondent and begged him to help end her life. Mrs. Chancellor is partially paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair. The case could go to the jury Monday afternoon. 57 Haitians have been freed from the Chrome Avenue Detention Center in Miami this week, and 3 of them have already applied for state welfare. Florida's Governor Bob Graham says the voluntary resettlement agencies are failing to provide the Haitians with jobs and support. And a spokesman from the state's Health and Rehabilitative Services says the agencies are not doing the jobs they get paid hundreds and thousands of dollars to do. About 1,800 Haitians who've been detained for a year are being released under the order of a federal judge. For most people, having a drink before bedtime, it may trigger some slight breathing disturbances. Those aren't a problem for the average person, but for those with serious lung disease, drinking and sleeping can be very dangerous. CNN's Jeff Levine has this report. At Virginia Beach, scientists and others are trying to protect swimmers from the jellyfish. The creature's sting can ruin a vacationer's day. More from Garrett Glaser. And that's the news for now. I'm Gwen Summers. Our next full newscast is at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Stay tuned for CNN Sports Review. Have a good morning.